Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, so we celebrate a new year on the Polonium 210 calendar. This week marks 336 years since Mary Curie discovered polonium 210. And I like that calendar. It allows me to make goals more often than I might otherwise. I noticed something interesting, though. I noticed that a lot of times what held me back in my life was that I was unwilling to take calculated risk. And I first noticed this year. Um, you guys remember I recently have made some progress with some goals of mine. I have room to take risks now. And so I've been taking more calculated risks. And I noticed something interesting. My risks are nearly never as bad as I had thought. Let me give an example. 2 years ago, I was working at another tutoring center and I got some really shitty hours. What had happened was Taylor Swift was performing here in Phoenix, and a lot of my students took time away from the tutoring. And as a result, I had a week that I only got 6 hours of work. And not only was it only 6 hours, it was spread out, so I still had to commute almost every day, if I remember correctly. Split shifts, and it was scattered through multiple days. And did I not enjoy working with the students? Well, it's not that. It's that if I'm only going to get paid for 6 hours, I would have liked to have something else go on in my life, right? After all, the opportunity costs of working that week were still almost as high as the opportunity costs of working a week where I actually got 30, 35 hours worth of work, right? Just from a practical point of view, right? Now, if this happened today, I would just ask for the time off. In fact, I would say something like, this is, I really love the students. But I need to visit my family. I'd rather miss 6 hours worth of students than 35, right? I would literally say that today. Maybe clean it up a little bit, but the gist is say that, right? But at the time, that job seemed like the most precious thing in the world. I had a net worth that was less than half of what it is today, and I had just moved to Phoenix. See, what I need to do is when it makes sense to, I gotta take that leap of faith sometimes. I often don't. A lot of my students who are in their late teens, early 20s, I see them take leaps of faith all the time, sometimes even with me. Sometimes they just trust that I'll give them another chance to take the exam, and they miss the exam on the shakiest of excuses. And I don't know what it is about me that allows students to do that, but they don't even ask it ahead of time. No, because if they ask, I might say no. They just take that leap of faith. And I sometimes, even when I'm tempted to not allow them to take the exam, I still allow them to do it just because of the courage that these people have. And I lack that courage. When I first started my tutoring career, wow, this is 12 years ago now, I had an upsetting situation with my very first client in Seattle. I've already talked about it on YouTube a few times. I was sitting in the library, Redmond Public Library, minding my own business. I was writing an AI for the computer game of Shogi when this mom, they are Chinese, and she witnessed what I was writing. She was impressed by that and asked what I was doing and for a living and all that. And after some discussion, she asked if I did any tutoring. And so it had been a while. I had never done it at the level that I was doing it at this point. I mean, I tutored other undergraduate students when I was working on my PhD. That I had done, but it had been years since I've graduated with my PhD. I had other stuff go on. I hadn't thought about it in a long time. Long story short, I gave him a really good deal, and then I got really attached to the student, and I didn't want to jeopardize the work with the student. You got to understand, aside from making whatever amount per hour, which I'm too embarrassed to say the number here, aside from making that many dollars per hour, I also developed good rapport with the student, and I didn't want to jeopardize that. Right? Sometimes it takes that leap of faith. Had I just asked for double the amount, in retrospect, now looking back at it, there's a very good chance I would have gotten it, and I probably would have gotten more respect as well. Also, the mom made it really made things really uncomfortable because as we got to know each other, she there was a time when I had just broken up with a girl, and she gave me the impression that she could help me find the next girl, and it just created all sorts of boundary kind of problems. Let's just put it that way. And on top of that, I kind of quit on this. This was long before the concept of quiet quitting, but I kind of quiet quit on the student. I didn't tell him that I didn't want to tutor him anymore, but I just made my schedule less and less convenient for them, hoping they would get the message. In retrospect, that was kind of off. I should have just said, this is not working well with me. I got to spend this much time driving to your place every time, and it's just not working very well. Right, it breaks my schedule up, and just the opportunity cost. I should have done it that way and renegotiated. Instead, I made myself less and less convenient for them, only available certain time on certain day, which I knew they wouldn't be, hoping they would up the offer. See, my thought process at the time was that I was so behind the curve. I hate to give specific numbers here. Let's just say that I needed 2 raises. So I needed them to offer me more and then for me to counter an even higher number because I was that far off. I gave them such a good deal. And so I was trying to lead them to make that offer so I could counter it. I was here. I needed to be here. I was waiting for them to offer this so I could counter up here. Right? That's the thought process. In retrospect, I should have countered up here and have them negotiate down, right? But I'm just very risk averse. And in retrospect, now that I've been taking more risk these last couple of weeks at my day job, even with my personal life, you got to remember, I hit it big with a girl in Korea, and I made a very close friend here in Phoenix, and I got a lot of connections. And so lately, when something doesn't go right, when somebody does something that disturbs me in some way, I'm not shy to tell people how I feel about it, right? Obviously, using I statements, I feel this way about this. I'm not shy about that. I'm also not shy about saying that I don't want to listen to you if you're going to talk like this, right? And I find that when I take those calculated risks, a lot of times nothing bad happens. I was just unwilling to take those risks in the past, in large part because I didn't have a reserve, right? And a lot of these kids that I'm witnessing, whether it be in my classroom or, I have a habit of dating people who are much younger than me. The girl at the book club that I met, that's like 10 years my junior. And she has a lot less financial stability than I do, obviously. But I see her take big leaps of faith. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. One thing she does have going for her that I don't as much is that she still has good family ties, right? If her leaps of faith go badly, I think she could still go home to crash with her family. I can't, right? And one question I do have is that when you see all these people who are overdosing on heroin and sleeping on the streets, you have to wonder, did they take a leap of faith that went wrong, or how? I always wonder the path that led to that, right? I want to avoid that. That's probably why I'm so risk adverse. I used to spend a lot of time hanging around those people. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.